Oh, what was that?
Did you hear that?
I did.
Do you know what that was?
I don't.
That was the sound of a Christmas special.
Ooh, I like those.
Dan, how do you feel about Christmas specials?
Cool. He's not going to have much to add.
He had more to say in the Halloween special.
I think he did. There was some teeth chattering in that one.
So, this video, we're going to be going over each of our top 5 Christmas. I don't think any of them are holiday. I think they're all Christmas movies. And so this is going to be in no particular order. We're going to go through them, talk about kind of reasons why we like them, why we picked them. And so we're going to start right after this intro. Alright, so to start off things, I'm going to go with my first movie, and my first pick is actually Krampus. I don't remember exactly when it came out. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But so it is kind of a horror Christmas genre. I do actually have another horror Christmas movie on my list, and if you know the kind of movies I like weird or kind of fun horror movies, those kind of takes. So this movie was, I went into it and had a lot of fun with it. It wasn't anything more serious than it needed to be. I went to the theaters actually to see it.
First row in the theaters.
We were first row in the theater because this guy was like, it's Krampus. It's not going to be busy. And you show up in first row, before there was reserved seats for every single theater anymore.
Poopsie.
Yeah. So, but it's a super fun movie. I think it's a really good for the season. It's something you can pop on and just watch. It's definitely has like the horror tones to it, but they threw in a lot of comedy into it. So it's not straight horror. It's comedy.
Yeah, completely take themselves seriously. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's certain scenes I feel like, was there cookies attacking them, gingerbread men attacking them, like toys coming to life. So lots of like little minions of Krampus, but in case you don't know the whole premise of Krampus is actually just like a hooved goat Santa Claus who throws kids into bags and beats them with a stick.
Yeah, he's the opposite of Santa. He punishes the bad ones instead of just giving them coal.
Yeah, so that was actually my first pick. It's a really fun movie, and it's just super easy to get into, kind of horror comedy. And so what's your first pick for the season?
Oh man, I've been waiting all year for this one. No, I'm not a big fan of Christmas because of the campiness of it, but I will say the one thing that it also pertains to kind of my personality is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Of all the versions of it, there's a lot of them. Jim Carrey's version is by far my favorite. I found a lot of humor into it. Like with the echo when he's like, "You're an idiot." That I actually still laugh at that. I get some comedy elements out of it. It's definitely a movie that if it's on during Christmas time, I will leave it on. I don't actively seek it though, but definitely try to watch it when it comes on.
Yeah, you should talk more about how much you enjoy Christmas. You're doing really good.
The first one I'll start with is just going on kind of the line of comedy is Bad Santa. So it's kind of a black comedy, dark comedy kind of movie. Very, very raunchy. It's got Billy Bob Thornton. He's posing as a Santa Claus in a shopping mall, but he's actually a professional thief. So it kind of goes through that, but he ends up meeting a child who actually believes that he is Santa. Merman Thurman or something like that, and it actually kind of turns heartwarming in a very funny way. Like kids pick on him because his kid is not the brightest, so he actually, Billy Bob actually ends up beating up some children, and at the end, like he defends him. He like actually tries to. In his last heist, he actually tries to steal the toys that the kid had wanted, and so there's a little bit of heartwarmingness to it, and I believe maybe the executive producers were producing somewhere in there. The Coen brothers were involved. They didn't direct it, but it's kind of got that feel as well. So it's an odd pick, and it might not be for everybody because like I said, it is raunchy. So it's not like a sit down with the family kind of the Christmas
Bad
movie.
Santa's definitely more my speed during the holidays.
So,
I would actively seek Bad Santa.
And don't listen to him. Invite the whole family. Invite grandma. Invite everybody. Everybody will have a blast.
She'll love it.
Yeah, it's a great pick. So for my next pick, I'm actually going to stay in my horror, just knock them out of the way, is actually Black Christmas. Not the original, which came out, I believe, in the 70s. This is the one from 2006, which was the remake. Now, whatever you want to say the original was better, yada yada. 2006, where it's at. So, Black Christmas, let me break it down for you. This starts off, and there's sorority sisters, and they're in a house for...
Spoiler alert, by the way.
There's going to be slight spoilers. So, it starts off, there's sorority sisters in their sorority house for Christmas. So, it's starting off good, right?
Perfect.
And
they didn't go home.
No, they didn't. Some of them did, but a group stayed, you know.
Isn't that like the end of the semester, though?
No.
It's
break. Whatever. Some people stay at school. Anyway, so... they're in a house, and actually what happened in the house was some time ago, I believe it was like 1991. This takes place in current day 2006. But 1991, there was a kid in the house named Billy, and Billy actually ended up killing his parents. He scooped out the eye of his sister.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, not his mom and his stepdad.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So, essentially, I'm not going to get into those spoilers as to what happens as he grows up. Essentially, though, he had, like, his mom was terrible to him. She locked him in the attic. And then, so, essentially, this is going to be a spoiler. He eventually just breaks. He kills her. He kills the mom, kills the dad. I think he puts, like, the star from the Christmas tree through his face. And then kills the mom. But then he also, I think he strangles her with Christmas lights. Plucks the eye out of the daughter.
Just got single eyes.
Out of the... Well, it's not even his sister. That's technically his daughter. Anyway. The mom has sex with him, and they have an incest baby. But...
Oh.
Wait, but so
this is the beginning?
This is like flash. It flashes back and forth between them.
Okay.
But so essentially what happens is, this all happens to him as a child, and... Oh, one of the best parts of the movies too. This is totally sidetracked. I'm all over the place. But he makes cookies out of his mom's skin. He takes a cookie cutter and he cuts her skin out.
This is freaking horrifying.
Oh, it's great. It's watch it. It's a great movie.
So you heard it here.
So today, modern time, 2006, when these sorority girls are in the. Every year, Billy, he's in a sane asylum. He tries to get out because you need to be home for the holidays. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so every year at Christmas, he tries to escape. This year he does.
Oh.
Yeah.
How many years has it been?
1991, 2006. Don't make me do quick maths.
2 + 2 is 4. Quick maths.
So, current day, they show up. Girls start going missing. He's just killing them off one by one. And for the longest time, I think it's until there's like 3 of them left, they even realize there's a killer. So he's just secretly killing people off, and they're just there's like
stealth kills.
There's like people are going missing around here.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and so then eventually, though, whole big finale. I'm not gonna spoil the actual ending. Go watch it. It's worth it. I'll just So I really like this movie. I don't even remember how I came across this movie, but I stumbled upon it, and I watch it every single year. And I really enjoy this movie. It's probably awful, but, go watch it. I really enjoy it. It's a good horror Christmas movie. Best horror Christmas movie I've seen. And so that's the end of my favorite Christmas movie.
That sounds...
You're up.
That's intense. I don't even know how I could... I'm mind blown at the facts that came out about this movie.
You can tell I'm passionate about this movie.
Brutal. So... Even though I'm not so jazzed about Christmas, now that I'm older and battle-hardened, one thing I do like about Christmas is the good feelings that I got when I was younger, and A Year Without Santa is one of my favorites. I don't remember much about it, but all I know is when it comes on TV during the holidays, I always want to just sit down and check it out. Heat Miser is one of my favorite characters of all time. I just can't help but to be amazed by it because it still looks good to this day, especially for being early 90s, late 80s, early 90s probably. And it's definitely a movie that you should show all of your kids because they need to grow up seeing that movie.
It's definitely good for the family.
I think it's probably much earlier than that.
Yes, is it much earlier?
It is much earlier.
Probably like...
I believe it is.
60s, 50s.
Is it that old?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm amazed because I just assumed it was in the 90s because that's when I was...
I don't know, guys. Wait until the next cut and you're magically going to have a fact about when that came out. You're up.
Onto that, in the claymation category, I felt like picking one of those as well, which are TV specials that I end up watching every year. It's Rudolph and the Island of Misfit Toys. I mean, these are classics. There's really not much to say about it. It's weird. It's wacky. There's just kind of really odd things that happen in it, but all the characters are really unique, and it's still really fun. And I mean, it's a classic for a reason, and there's a reason that they shove it down your throat every single year. There's really honestly not that much to say. The music is great. I'll tip my hat off to Burl Ives in that, so if somehow you just have not managed to catch it, catch that one. It stays true, at least there's a bunch of things happen, but the regular storyline, if you know the song of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, obviously that storyline is there, but it's just surrounded by a bunch of other stuff, like Island of Misfit Toys and Abominable Snowmen and things like that, but it's a good time. It's one of the better claymation ones.
For my third pick, I am keeping my list going with controversial or somewhat edgy picks. And
edgy?
Yeah, edgy.
So edgy.
I'm saying this is edgy because probably you agreed with me, but probably nobody else will agree with me. He's made me believe this.
I understand.
So I'm going with Christmas with the Cranks. And so, a Tim Allen movie, it is just kind of, I really enjoy this movie.
Gets a ton of hate.
I don't know.
And
I don't know if it does. He's made me believe it does get lots of hate. I thought it did,
but I can't be 100% sure. I haven't seen it personally.
He's not the only person I've heard say.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen reviews that have hated it.
Of course,
but I can't. Because
they're doing a review.
It could have been any.
Because they're doing a review of a Christmas comedy. Oh, get over yourself. Anyway, this movie is I enjoy this movie because it does that whole take on Tim Allen. In this movie, decides to just kind of be like, oh, we are skipping Christmas. Their daughter can't come home for Christmas, so they say, screw the neighborhood, screw the holidays. Like, I think he adds it up, and he's like, we spent like $7,000 on Christmas. I don't know how you spend that much, but he's like, we can go on a cruise and save money. That's the whole idea. It goes from there with, who else is in it? Also, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. And so there's a lot of stupid comedy. I find it really funny. And it's a lot of like little stupid scenes, but it's like the neighborhood turns against him, and it's this back and forth between like the neighborhood trying to get him to stay and all this kind of stuff, and he's just very adamant about skipping Christmas and not decorating or anything like that.
It's just like a ton of over the top neighbors.
Oh yeah, it's just
it's a similar premise of like when the neighborhood wants to do like a block party and then the one family just doesn't want to participate.
And like your house is in the middle of where the block party will be. Like It's like they're that family, but I get where he's coming from. But that's kind of the base of the movie. It's a really fun comedy. It's definitely appropriate for any age, family wise. And like I said, so I don't care if you don't like it. I liked it. Get over it. So
let's keep it moving with some more Tim Allen because I love Tim Allen Christmas
the
movies.
Allen train going.
Choo, choo. The Santa Claus, fantastic Christmas movie.
Ooh, was that 3 Fantastics?
3 Fantastics.
You know it.
It's
You got
so
it.
good.
3 Fantastics out of
basically
3.
It plays off of how grown-ups kind of fall out of Christmas, which is the theme if you've been watching the whole time with me. How adults fall out of Christmas, but kids still believe. And basically Santa shows up, spoiler alert, falls off of his roof, and I guess he dies.
But he gets scared off of his roof.
Yes, he does. He gets scared off.
He doesn't die.
He disappears.
He dies.
I'm pretty sure he dies.
He dies.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he hits the ground and he turns into fairy dust or whatever, and then the suit's there and Tim Allen's new Santa Claus.
So that's what happens. So basically...
He's dead.
Yeah, he finds... So Tim Allen runs out, he finds the suit out front.
They breeze over.
Yeah, and the reindeer are up top with no Santa, and he just doesn't know what's going on, so he puts on the suit, and he picks up this card, and there's like all this like fine print that he doesn't read, which is pretty funny because who reads the fine print?
It is the Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yes.
With an E. You get it now?
Yeah. They
right.
go into more with the
which
escape clause later.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
the other
we won't go there.
No.
That's not a pick.
No.
So basically, he just goes on and ignores it. Just it's ridiculous. Let's go to bed. Let's do what we gotta do. And then later on, you find out that the elves are showing up. Like, hey, Santa, it's time to go. It's time to. He's like, what are you talking about? There's some clever, funny things where they play on how his beard grows.
Yeah, he shaves. Fat.
He starts getting fat, and there's nothing he can do about it. Yeah. And he goes to his board meetings. He shaves it, and then when he comes back up, it's still there. He's like, oh my god, what's happening? Just a lot of really cool stuff that, as if he would. What would it feel like if a regular person had to become Santa Claus to take their place? And it's a really great movie.
That's good. Yeah, my next one is not Tim Allen, but we're going back to kind of, it's not claymation but animated. I have to go with Charlie Brown's Christmas. Another classic. Unfortunately, I'm picking all these ones where there's really nothing to say. You can point out, Charlie Brown Christmas tree. It has all the staples in Charlie Brown, like Lucy, the psychiatrist booth that she has, and the things that he goes through. And naturally, it's a lot of it is really depressing. It's Charlie Brown. He doesn't understand why everyone is so happy during Christmas when nothing good he feels is happening to him, and he tries to start this play, and it just isn't going the way that he wants, and he just kind of like, well, his last thing is he goes to buy the tree, and he brings it back because he sees this wilting, terrible, ugly tree, but to him, it's beautiful when he finds it and he wants to care for it, and he brings it back, and it's just wilting and it's dying, and then everybody naturally just laughs at him and makes fun of him.
I mean, awful tree.
Yeah, but then for some reason everybody comes in, and it might have been Linus that said, I don't think it's such a bad tree. He wraps his blanket around the base, and he pulls it up, and then everyone just comes back and somehow just they do this, and then all of a sudden now it's a beautiful magical tree, and they all get together and they sing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." But the point is, I'm sorry, I just blew the whole thing. It's a half an hour anyway. But it's just one of those. It turns out to be heartwarming, even for him, which doesn't seem like it happens a lot, and everyone comes together and wishes him finally a Merry Christmas, and it also really another. I don't have the historical facts on this, but another interesting thing was that a movie TV special had the point when Linus came out and read the story from the Bible, I believe, chapter Luke, where actually brought in religion to it, which was really interesting, which I still don't think they do a lot, and especially for TV. I don't know if it was controversial or not. I'm not going to go ahead and say if it was or not, but I still find that is interesting that they still play that. But that was there. It wasn't the main thing in your face, even though it was very defined where Linus came out and read that off, but it's just really interesting point in that, but still all around it's just a nice good feeling finally at the end, and it's Charlie Brown, it's the Peanuts.
For my next pick, just going to roll into it, is Jingle All the Way. You've probably seen this movie, but is a classic, I'd say. It was in the 90s, is like the epitome of 90s comedy. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad.
Sinbad's stars loose.
Yeah.
Sinbad's stars.
So, the whole story is that Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a father. he has a son. The kid really wants a toy. It's every Christmas. There's always that one toy you need. Sadly, Toys R Us are no longer around, but, used to get the big book and used to be that one toy you used to circle or find. Parents used to actually have to go find it or get it. The wife in this movie is like, you should get it. He's like, it's fine. And so ends up coming up to the time and he actually can't find it. It's sold out lots of places. Mailman or Postman, played by Sinbad, is also trying to get a toy, and so it becomes like this conflict / working together to get a toy. And so these two...
I think they find out about like the last 2 or 3 in the city.
And then they kind of both are just going after it.
It's a battle.
Pretty much. And so the whole movie, they go through all these kind of antics where they're trying to do like a radio show contest. They go to a factory and they run into like this really big Santa Claus, which is really fun. They get beat up by a bunch of Santa Clauses, like rogue, like gang of Santa Clauses.
There's like 40 of them.
Yeah. And so it's really funny. And then like there's actually scenes of Arnold Schwarzenegger in like a Turbo Man suit, which like I had a Turbo Man toy and it's just ridiculous. Like the scenes that happen in it.
I think he even sees his son at some point, and he's like pretending to be Turbo Man, but then he doesn't reveal it till like the very end that it's him dressed up like him.
And it's like the end of it. Spoiler, whatever. He's like flying around with a jetpack, and seems like this just ridiculous.
It's a good time.
But yeah, it's a really fun time. And so I would just say, yeah, definitely worth a watch. If you have not seen it, you probably have, but if not, definitely watch it this season. It's definitely just something easy to put on. You're going to have a couple laughs, and it's just going to be good for everybody in the family. So, all right,
My next movie is the first movie I think of and the first movie I seek out during the holiday season, and that is Home Alone 1 and 2. The reason why I say that is because those 2 are the best by far. I actually like 2 a little bit better. Lost in New York was really good. I like when they're stuck in the toy store and there's a bunch of things going on. Basically, the premise is everyone goes away for the holiday season, and there's these bandits, these thieves, Harry and Marv, and they're not really...
The wet bandits, then
they're not really the best.
They're not really professionals.
They're not really they're professionals because that's what they do.
They're very dumb,
but they're not very smart. Yeah. And they start out as the wet bandits. They end up as the sticky bandits. It's hilarious. Basically, the movie is they go away for they find the McAllister's house. That's the house that they want to target this holiday season because he finds out that they're going away on vacation, and Kevin McAllister gets left behind. I guess at home. I think he's sleeping the whole time.
Home alone.
Well, I think in the second one it was the airport. He got on the wrong plane, I believe. So either way, he gets left behind, and they think the house is empty, and it's not. And Kevin McAllister comes up with all these cool little tricks to
little traps
and tricks and it's absolutely hilarious.
Death traps.
Oh yeah.
Now. It's over the top, and it's just everything's hilarious that happens.
The head blowtorch. Joe
Pesci.
Blowtorched.
Yeah. You get bricks thrown at you from the top of a building.
Paint can in a pendulum smashes the front of his dome.
Doorknob's red hot.
Yeah. All these things would absolutely kill any human,
Marbles
and it's absolutely
it's just hilarious. It's a good time.
The toolbox.
Yeah,
the toolbox is just like ding 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 ding, and he's just like,
what
is that? And he has his ear to the door. He's like, I don't know what that is, and the next thing you know, it just smashes through.
It's like a full garage toolbox, like a red Craftsman
very Wile E. Coyote Acme-esque kind of things that go
way over the top.
Set up to go wrong.
It is one of the best holiday movies ever made, both of them. If you haven't seen them, like we've said so many times before, please go see them. It'll make your holiday season one to remember.
So my next one is another classic. It's a Wonderful Life from 1946, directed by Frank Capra, starring James Stewart. It pretty much follows the character of George Bailey, whose lifelong selflessness at his own expense oftentimes, finally catches up with him where his company, Building and Loan, they misplace money. Spoiler alert, it's Uncle Billy who happens to do that. And
always Billy.
Damn it, Bill.
Or your uncle.
So, due to this misplacement of money, it could result in criminal charges. So, furthermore, he finds out that he's worth more dead than he is alive due to a life insurance policy. So, he ends up on a bridge and contemplates suicide. And before doing so, he sent a guardian angel named Clarence. And what this guardian angel does is show him what life in the past and in the future would have been like if he never existed at all. And it kind of all finally wraps up very cheesily, but it is still an incredible message that shows us kind of what the true message of Christmas is all about, which is the greatest gift of all, which is life itself and family and friends and the generosity that you can give and show others and how you impact them. So it's obviously it's a very big classic. So it is an older film. If you have not taken the time to check it out, I would recommend that you do so.
Alright, so I'm going to keep this train rolling and no other train like the Polar Express. You like that?
I
know. Alright, so this movie you've probably heard, you may have seen it or not, is a animated film. Essentially, the way that this movie starts off is that there's a child. He is growing more and more skeptical of Santa Claus and kind of Christmas in general. And so the Polar Express shows up. It is on Christmas Eve that it shows up. And so the conductor of the train is voiced by Tom Hanks. He plays a couple other roles, I think 4 or so other roles in the movie. He plays a dad, some other characters. But essentially, this movie kind of plays off of this same, not necessarily as deep as like A Wonderful Life with the meaning of Christmas is life, just more so the meaning of Christmas is about kind of spending it with other people, helping each other, kind of just being a community. And so it kind of goes, and so it's this train ride with a bunch of other kids, and they're going to the North Pole, but the animation, we were talking about it before, can get a little weird. It can look a little off, a little
creepy.
A lot of people have claimed creepy.
Yeah, a little like robot-y, non-human kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. The eyes dead.
Yeah, so
not filled with the Christmas spirit.
So look past the eyes, look past some of the weird characters, but the sets of the actual film are gorgeous. Yeah. The train, there's some phenomenal action scenes that can happen throughout the movie. Once they get to the North Pole, the towns and the sets that are created are just, they're amazing looking. And so it's definitely worth a watch just to see that kind of animation that happened. And like I said, it is kind of fun sometimes to watch some of these kind of animations that happen from, couple years apart and kind of see how much things have progressed and changed. But overall, it's a very good movie. Has a really good message that, the true meaning of Christmas and believing in Christmas. And so I think it's definitely worth a watch. What is going to be your last pick?
My last pick isn't necessarily a Christmas movie, but it's one that I like to put on during the holiday season. It's called Trading Places. I think that was in the 90s. It's Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and it's Eddie Murphy at his best, honestly. If you've seen his stand-up, Eddie Murphy Raw, one of the best stand-ups of all time. This is that version of Eddie Murphy. It's pretty great. Basically, it is wintertime, New York City. Eddie Murphy plays a character that is kind of a scumbag. He's a panhandler, pretends to be disabled, things like that. And then there's like your corporate bigwigs that are running the industries and things like that. Dan Aykroyd is one of those board members. And the whole story kind of plays on social aspects of how would a person who is homeless basically act the same way if you gave him the benefits that, say, a corporate bigwig that Dan Aykroyd has, and would the corporate bigwig be as exactly how he is now if you stripped all that stuff away. So they kind of play on that make a bet, and the roles flip, hence the name. And it's really great. It's hilarious. And I think during the holiday season, one of the biggest gifts that you can give to your family is laughter. And I think that this movie will deliver on that on every front.
Nice.
Last but not least.
So my last pick and the last movie for this video is Christmas Carol. Now there are probably 1,000 versions of that. The one that I chose is the 2009 motion capture version, directed by Robert Zemeckis, which is in kind of the same style as Polar Express. But in 5 years or so, you can actually see the animation has improved, and characters are a lot more alive and not so creepy, unless they were intended to be so. So now I mentioned how there's 1,000 versions of that, and I love all of the Christmas carols. Muppet Christmas Carol or Mickey's Christmas Carol. I think it's just an amazing story right off the bat, and if you don't know the story, I probably shouldn't need to tell the story. You at least watch one of them and you'll get the general idea. But what it is it follows the Charles Dickens novel of A Christmas Carol that follows Ebenezer Scrooge, who's a curmudgeonly money lender in Victorian England, who is first visited by a ghost of his deceased partner named Jacob Marley, and then subsequently visited by 3 spirits that represent the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas yet to come. And pretty much what he is shown through that is the path of his whole life of how he became what he is and what could happen if he continues on that path. So his greediness, his obsession with money, his lack of empathy and lack of generosity towards other humans, his lack of generosity towards mankind in general. And I think it's just still to this day holds up and probably, unfortunately, is still very relevant. That I think if people actually just watch it and not just be like, oh, just know the Christmas Carol. If you just watch it, you could probably learn something, and it teaches you how to treat other people, which I think is an extremely important message to learn and to hold on to. And I think that's what the Christmas Carol represents, and could be a movie not just at Christmas time, but just any time throughout the year in general. But the last thing that I'll say is why I chose this one over any of the other versions that I mentioned is, number one, I think it does follow Charles Dickens' novel very faithfully, even incorporating some of the old-timey English, London English language. It also keeps some of the darker elements, like even including the characters, if you will, of ignorance and want. And lastly, while it's still a retelling of an old story, it's telling it in a more modern way with the animation and motion capture, so they can add things in like visual gags, epic set pieces, so it's just a visual masterpiece just in general. So I think it's one of the better Christmas carols, and actually Ebenezer Scrooge is voiced by Jim Carrey, so it's all around just a very good time, and I think it's a fun, good movie to watch.
All right, so those are our picks. That is 15 holiday/Christmas movies for you. There are maybe must-sees. Some of those may have been movies you've seen before that are more common. Some of them you might not have seen. So if you guys go and watch any of these movies, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you watched any of these movies, and if you liked them, what your thoughts were. Let us know some of your favorite Christmas movies. If you like this kind of video, this style video, leave a like. If you'd like to see some other stuff, let us know what you want to see us doing. And then, other than that,
have a happy holiday and a happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Stay mediocre.